Hey, J.C Agajanian here, broker associate with eXp, top grossing agent with the Whissel Realty Group, summarizing for you the mastermind that the Fast Forward Network put together for us each week. Let's get straight into it.
All right, let's dive straight in to today's Monday morning mastermind recap. The conversation opened up this morning with a humorous Instagram post of one of the agents who's crushing it in their business, a husband-wife team. But it was pretty funny because very cute realtor standing in front of a house, literally like driving a post that you put the actual real estate signpost into the ground, like almost standing on it like a pogo stick, like, because she's not a large woman, so she was just like doing her best to cram it in there. And so it was kind of funny. And then Dan Beer and Kyle Whissel jumped in, and they're kind of like, okay, well, what can we draw from this? Basically the lesson that they pulled from it was one of time management. These guys are doing a lot of business. Granted, they were at the home anyways to do some other listing prep and stuff, but the long story short is it costs you about $35 to hire a sign guy to go put a sign in your yard. And they really took some time to camp out on the subject and really like push the point home for everyone listening that this is not the type of work that we should be doing as individual agents, as team leads, even as agents on a team. Our time is worth more and can be better spent doing dollar productive activities and not things like driving signposts into the yard out front of a home that we're going to sell. And the example of that is to figure out, like, and you can go through this exercise yourself. What are your goals? What are you driving towards? What is the gross commission income that you're trying to have on the books when we get to December 31st this year? Well, you can quickly go back, figure out how many work hours there are in a year, and figure out what your hourly wage is. And I'm going to venture to say it's between $100 and $200 an hour. And that doesn't come anywhere near the $35 for a trip to go put a sign in the yard. So taking that concept and extrapolating it across everything that you do in your business is powerful. And if there's things that you're doing because it's easy, or you know how, or you don't want to release control, but it's below your pay grade, quite literally, you got to figure out how to stop doing it. And we got to implement that concept of leverage, whether that's with an admin or outsourcing tasks and jobs to other people. Do not undervalue your time, because it is worth so much more. And if we have big goals, big visions for what we're going to do in this industry, we can't be doing small things. So really good lesson on just picking it up from a silly photo that was funny to look at, but a really good lesson. And you should do that. You should figure out what is your hourly rate and make sure that all the stuff that you do on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, on a monthly basis is at or above that. And if it's not, hire it out. Your time is worth more. Springboarding off that concept was the concept of maybe you need to make that first hire. And so how do we do it? We kind of talked about this, I can't remember, recently in one of our masterminds, but basically, we already talked about how to create the job description for that first hire. And if you missed that, DM me, I'll make sure you get that one. But we already talked about that. So how do we figure out who we're looking for? How do we figure out how to make the right hire? How do we sort through the wrong people? It's hard to hire people right now, and you got to pay them, a decent wage, because a lot of people don't want to work right now. So Kyle chimed in and said, listen, a great thing that he's done in the past is to create a story, create a description of a person you don't have yet. So the idea is, this person is, explain who they are. They do this, they're this type of person, ingenuitive, handy with their hands, whatever, smart with tech, they're good interpersonally, whatever it is that it would be the perfect scenario of that person that needs to fit that job. Describe it with as much clarity as possible, and then tell the story to others. Make a post on social, tell your friends, tell your coworkers who you're looking for, tell your family, tell the vendors. Title reps are in different offices all the time. They come across different people doing different things. Put the word out. And when you are very clear about who that person is and what it is you're looking for, it will be much easier, because that's a whole field of interviews that you can eliminate and move to the next level, because people aren't going to refer you to somebody who, if you are a very clean cut office with not much messing around, they're not going to refer you to somebody who likes to party on the time, and vice versa. If you're a very loose, like fun office that has beers in the fridge, they're not going to send you someone who's a prude and doesn't like that. So they know who you are already. They're going to like filter through who would be a good fit, and then figure out someone who actually fits that description that you put together. Another important thing that Kyle shared with us is the concept of bringing somebody on as a 14-day contract instead of just hiring them. He shared an experience where he was really glad that he didn't hire somebody, because it turned out that within the first week or two, it was very evident that this was not going to be a good fit. And the fact that he set that person up as a 2-week contract before actually bringing them on, doing the onboarding and hiring, saved him a lot of time and hassle and money. So we talked about a couple interview questions too. It's not a full hiring tutorial, but there were some good pointers that people brought up. So the 14-day contract is one of them. The other one was a couple good questions to ask in an interview process. And so one of them was an interesting take on a traditional interview question. So instead of asking someone, to something that fits your culture, like, hey, describe a time when you had to be a team player to get something done at work. Do the opposite. Say, hey, can you tell me a time when you just weren't able to be a team player in a work setting? Or can you describe a time when you really weren't enthusiastic about something that you were doing? Ask an opposite question of what you are looking for, because it's pretty easy for someone to pick up on what they think you want to hear and then serve up an answer to that. But it's hard for them to avoid the question if you're deliberately asking the negative of it. So that was a tip. And then another one, getting into the psyche behind people, is asking them about those transitions they've had in their resume, right? Because this resume is a history of their work world and their life professionally. So, hey, why'd you leave this position and go to the next one? How did you find that new opportunity? How did that onboarding look when you came in? And what's that look like to this person when they make these transitions? And that'll help you get a better understanding of who they are, where they're coming from, and what has led to the different changes they've had in their career, which could be, no guarantees, but it could be foreshadowing of what may or may not happen in the future with you. Another question that is, I think, stolen directly from Elon Musk is, what is the hardest problem you've had to solve at work? That's another good one that they threw out there. So a nice book that was recommended on this topic is not necessarily the hiring, but the time management piece that this was all linked together with, was by a guy named Dan Kennedy, who is widely renowned as one of the kings of direct response marketing. He's also a well-known entrepreneur and author, and he wrote a book called No BS, Time Management for Entrepreneurs. So No BS, Time Management for Entrepreneurs by Dan Kennedy is a good one to check out there. Next, they addressed a question that had been written in regarding CRMs. So if you're not familiar, if you don't use one already, it's a client or contact management relationship management software, CRM. So basically, there's a million different real estate CRMs out there. I personally have gone through at least like 5 or 6, and one of them 2 or 3 times I've switched back and forth from. But there's a million different features and benefits of all the different CRMs, but really the conversation that we had focused around what are some things that you're doing inside of your CRM that is irreplaceable? What is a really crucial piece of information that this thing can do and maybe some others can't? So a big topic was IDX deliverability and general email deliverability. So are these emails getting to inboxes? That alone is a bit of an obstacle these days, because Google and all the other portals are getting better at filtering out spam. You don't want to be looked at as spam. You want your message to get through, and you really want to make sure that your property notifications are getting through and delivered to that inbox, because that is going to be the most widely opened and actually read email out of any marketing piece that you can ever send is those property notifications. So how well are they at making sure you don't get filtered into a spam box? Another important piece, and this is a little bit techy, but making sure that there's an open API so that you can plug in peripherals to this system. A really important one is related to textability. Texting is very sensitive in the day and age that we're in. The regulators are trying to keep us from turning text messages into email where people largely don't look at it. They're overrun with spam and it's a mess. So they're keeping people from automatically sending texts. They're keeping people from mass texting. And so the way to get around that is to have smart systems that are either going to use AI and actually respond to people. Sure, they're programmed, but it's going to be appropriate to the responses and actually have a conversation for you. We actually use a system that does that, and it's pretty amazing. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I'll tell you what we're using. Another system that you can plug into almost any open API CRM is Call Action. Call Action is a system that you can program to have long-term nurtures and text messages. The reason this is super important is because of an interesting data point that Kyle shared. So he said that he had some lists and he had a group of about 20,000 leads that he's running a drip text campaign to. There's about 152,000 text messages sent to these 20,000 leads. Only about 8,000 of those 20,000 leads became responsive over a long period of time. And how many attempts per response? Not even a real conversation, just either, actual conversation that leads to an appointment or fuck you, leave me alone. How many actual attempts does it make to get that one response? 19. So you could do that all on your own, or you could use a system like Call Action to do it for you. I know what I'm doing. So anyways, back to email marketing. Another tip was to not use your CRM to do your blast marketing. If you're sending out a newsletter, if you're doing other things like that, run it through Emma, run it through MailChimp, run it through something else, so that if they do end up unsubscribing from your content, they're not going to unsubscribe from those property notifications and everything that comes from your CRM. It'll just be in MailChimp or whatever you're using, and you could isolate that unsubscribe to that world and not everything that you're doing in your business. Somebody else brought up the idea of making the database that you import or that you create as leads come in over time in your CRM downloadable. Some people are using downloads on a monthly, quarterly basis to create special audiences within social media. One of the reasons you have to create a private audience or a unique audience of your own by importing a list is because in real estate, we are forbidden from pinpointing too accurately where we want to market to. If you've tried it out before, you'll probably be aware that in Facebook and Instagram, which are the biggest ones that we use to serve up ads, the regulators at the government level have made it so that you have to advertise to a very large level, usually one that spans multiple zip codes in areas greater than you're trying to target. So the way to get around that is to import your own audience that you've created, and then you can run those ads specifically to those people instead of to everybody that happens to live within this large radius. Another thing you could do with those custom audiences is retarget and keep your brand top of mind to them. So a downloadable database is another thing. The general concept of email marketing was touched upon as well. We kind of dug into one person's example, scrutinized their subject lines, scrutinized their content, the copy, the body of the letter itself, and a little bit of tech talk took place in there as well. So basically, overall with deliverability, going back to what we were talking about before with a CRM in general, is to not use HTML heavy files. You don't want to be uploading large images, videos with huge megabyte size files. You want to make it as light and as similar to a simple email that you might send somebody directly as possible. It's going to increase the deliverability. So another thing, as far as content goes, self-promotion obviously is not usually very well received. And even if you are not really promoting yourself, but the splash page or the image or the first thing that someone sees looks like it is you just puffing yourself up, it's probably going to get ignored, even if there's good content in there for that client. So be aware of that. Back to the size of files, check out JPEG Mini. It's a very lightweight way to put something that actually looks like a heavier HTML file into an email. You can use that. You just want those megs to be as small as possible. And if you have a lot of content, spread out that video content. Don't put 3 or 4 or more pieces into one email that goes out. Spread it out. Repetition and consistency is more, and get more out of each thing that you create. So no need to push it all out at once. Use consistency and put different, maybe 1 or 2 pieces of content in an email instead of several. And that'll be better over time. And it'll give you more use and more touches out of the work that you're doing. And then Kyle talked about A/B testing as well, that you can use with MailChimp. So, you can maybe change a subject line with the same content, see which one's going better, or maybe modify where the photos are or the copy that you use inside there and see which one's going. So if you have a large list, you can start with maybe half of it, A/B test a quarter of each, 1 quarter one way, the other quarter the other way, figure out which one's working better, and then the whole second half of that list will get the one that's actually performing a lot better. So you can dive into that too. It's, just a whole nother world of a rabbit hole that you can get lost in checking that out. So yeah, great, simple email campaign. You want to design it to look personal, handwritten, and easy. And here's a little freebie out here that I had to write down, and it was great. Dan popped up and said, hey, use this as just a simple email. He didn't give us a subject line, but the content would be something like this. Hey, with the changing market conditions, we're doing some simple research to understand where this market is heading. Do you plan on selling or buying a home in the next 12 months? Isn't that brilliant? What do you got now? You got a short list to pepper up and follow up on over the next 12 months. That's going to be this year's business. And people are just going to raise their hand and say, yeah, me, I'm one of them. It's so easy. You could also use SurveyMonkey to do that and make it a little more official, like you're really looking into market research for the area. But whatever you want to do, that's a great concept right there. Regarding copywriting and email marketing, there's a couple great books that were mentioned as well. One of them, Selling Like Crazy. The other one is The Ultimate Sales Letter. So you can check those out. The final subject that we covered in the mastermind today was the concept of transitioning from primarily working buyers and moving towards sellers. The long story short is you're going to have to get an opportunity one way or another, and you're going to have to take advantage of it, right? So you could start by doing the traditional work, door knocking, farming, whatever it takes. Maybe you've got a move up buyer that has to sell as well. However you are going to get that first one, you figure that out, and then you just really take advantage of that first listing in a specific neighborhood, and you blow it up. You go crazy, you do the door knocking, you do the circle dialing. You go over the top with a catered open house. You go over the top with a private neighbors only event, maybe before that open house, so that you're really just schmoozing with the neighborhood. And you're getting your signs out there all the time, doing multiple open houses. Just really press in and make yourself known. Flyers, just sold. Well, actually going back, just list, or coming soon, just listed, pending, just sold. Flashy headlines on all of them. You could just go crazy with one simple listing and press in and get more in the neighborhood. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up. Let me know if you're interested in joining these masterminds yourself, or if you've got any questions, follow-up questions on any of the stuff I talked about today. And I look forward to chatting with you soon.
Hey, thanks for checking out the video. I hope you found it valuable and that there's something in there that you can implement into your business today. If you'd like more information, I'd love to be a resource for you. I'd also love to connect you with the mastermind directly if you'd rather see that instead of catching my recaps. And if you're interested in joining the Fast Forward Network, DM me here and I'll hook you up. Talk to you soon.